I'm Alex Gimenez here with Christian Rauch and head coach David Archer for the Cornell football team. David, thanks for joining us here.
Oh, you kidding me? I appreciate you guys covering Big Red football and taking time out of your day to be up here in the beautiful tradition room and talk some Cornell football and have a great time today. So I appreciate it.
Tell you what, I think for both of us, it's our first time in this room. It's a beautiful, beautiful room you guys have.
It's really spectacular. We have unbelievably loyal and generous alumni. And this was their brainchild almost a decade ago, which sounds crazy to think about it. Time flies, but it's a great space on campus that's unique just for Cornell football, and we really utilize it in our recruiting. We utilize it for alumni affairs, but it's picturesque, overlooking Sholkoff Field, and gives you such a sense of history of what you're a part of, but also a possibility of what we're doing today can eventually and hopefully will be displayed with pride on these walls in this room for years to come.
I think we both can definitely feel that, just sitting in this room, and I think it's a great segue into some of the things we want to talk to you about. And
Sure.
Obviously you come in as a head coach, and youngest head coach.
Right.
It's great opportunity for you. You're going to be the head coach of your alma mater, which of course is a great opportunity. What was the plan that you kind of set out for yourself, year one, and how did you go about building that plan for this team and for this program?
It's a great question. It's multifaceted, the answer, because you're working with so many different groups and constituents that you are trying to build, because so many folks have a hand in Cornell football. Obviously, the current team, okay. Then you have the former players, the alumni base, the university administration, those folks on the CFA executive board, our future players, high school coaches, because that's who we have to tap in to get those future players. So you have several different groups that you are all of a sudden the leader of, and each of the game plans and strategies for those groups are different, and each of those groups are already at a different place, right? So the biggest thing, the biggest part of the plan is you have to show a vision, and a vision that each one of those groups can buy into. And in sports, that vision becomes easy because the vision is a competitive program, a championship level competitive program, year after year after year, right? So you then say, okay, well, this is the end game, the end result that we want. Where are each of those different folks at right now in terms of getting to that plan as I see it, right? Because now all of a sudden you're in charge. You're the one that has to evaluate the situation and call the shots accordingly. And then, okay, well, knowing that where they are, knowing where I want them to be, what are some of the things that I feel we need to put in place to get those done? The most visible one that everybody sees is the 10 Saturdays in the fall. And that's the only one that they really see and pay attention to, and that's all, that's the one result that matters. But everything else that goes into that will make or break whether that program is just a 1 year, hey, that was an unbelievable, couple of games they strung together and it was great, or hey, is this going to be a championship level program that's built to last?
I think that's a great point. I think you're highlighting a lot of what no one gets to see, and I think that's really, really interesting because it's something that, like you said, it builds the program. I think a lot of people focus on wins and losses and year to year how performance goes, but in reality, it's that structure that really is what builds a program.
Correct, and the wins and losses, no question. There's a short term and a long term. The short term win that day comes down to what's happening that day, the plays that I call, the plays that I don't call, the decisions I made of who to play or who not to play. That affects that day's win and loss, and those are critically important. As important, or in some cases more important, if you're going to reach that ultimate, consistent, competitive program is, hey, what's the infrastructure that you're building behind that? Because I could, you can call all the best plays and so forth, and without the infrastructure, it's not built to last. So you're simultaneously doing, both things at once.
Definitely. And let's talk a little bit about the on-field product. Obviously, Sure. This season, if you're looking at just purely wins and losses, it might look like a tough season. But where did we get? How far did we come this season as a program in the development on the field?
Sure. Well, I think it definitely was a tough season. And I think that there's several factors that you could point to, but ultimately you point to the head coach. They're responsible for all that, and I take the responsibility for every win and for every loss that this program has under me. Now, that aside, what we've done and what we've established is a couple of things. The first thing is, and I've had so many people come up to me and say this, from students on campus to parents to alumni, is the effort with what our team plays is a discernible difference from what, again, not just my opinion, people have told me from what they've seen in the past. So I've told our team, we've established for 2 straight years now that we are going to absolutely, for 60 minutes on Saturday, compete like sons and guns. And that's huge. That can never go away, because in the Ivy League, there's no playoff, right? So you're looking at 7 different individual bowl games. So you have to get the team ready to rock and roll every single one of those games, and every single one of those games is critical. So that's the baseline. The second thing, we want to be great with the football, right? So defensively, we led the conference in takeaways. We had 20 takeaways, so an average of 2 a game. And if you look at some of the film, there's, especially in that Penn game, that ball's on the carpet. It's like, oh man, we just need one more guy to be able to jump on. So to emphasize that, and for 2 years, to emphasize that and to see that then actually tangible result, that's enormous, because the football is the great equalizer. It's the equalizer of the other team's star player. It's the equalizer of the hurry-up offense that is going 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's the equalizer of a team that's getting hot and getting momentum. It can negate all those things if you can teach techniques and develop those techniques and skills of how to actually take the football away. So that's the one piece of the all about the ball equation. The other piece is you can't give it away, right? And so we actually played 4 different quarterbacks this year. I don't know if there was many teams in the country that played that many different folks behind the center, which, as anybody that watches the game of football would agree, that's an integral position to the team's success. And we were 3rd in the conference, tied for 3rd in the conference in fewest giveaways. And 2 of those freshmen were quarterbacks. One other was making his first start ever, and the final guy was making his second start ever when he started. So the infancy of the people in that position, even the older kids, in terms of actual relevant game experience, because there was one sheriff in town at quarterback for 4 straight years here, and then he graduated. But the infancy of those folks, to be able to have the 3rd fewest giveaways in the conference was a major step. The other thing offensively that we did was we created a balance. So in spite of Jeff Matthews, even if you look prior to that era, it was a pass-first offense dating back even to 2007 under Coach Barnum, who's now the head football coach at Portland State, and wish him well there. That was a pass-first attack. To try to create that balance, and when you have that going on, when you're a pass-first attack, in practice, you never practice running the ball. Your offensive linemen don't practice run blocking. Your defense does not practice defending the run. All things that are critical to winning football at any level, right? So that imbalance, we really started to shift focus this year with Coach Gimenez as our new offensive coordinator, saying, we got to get this balance because it's going to benefit the entire program. So when Luke Hagee ran for consecutive 100-yard games for the final 3 games to end the year, that was the first time that had been done since like 2005. That's a huge deal to see a tangible result of that balance coming to fruition. And then I'd say on the defensive side of the football, besides leading the conference in takeaways, the other thing that we created was we played almost exclusively our base defense in 2013. It was very vanilla, very bland. 2014, we became very exotic with the blitzes. Building on that, what we want to get to is a defense that on 1st and 2nd down, we call those normal downs. A normal down football, we want to be able to play our base defense. And then on 3rd down and in the red zone, we want to get incredibly exotic with our blitzes to create confusion. So it's a systematic attack to try to build that, both offensive and defensive, those systems will be built to last, they both have an identity, but they're flexible enough to recruit to. When you play in the Ivy League, the academic standards are never going to, never going to go away. So you have to be flexible enough in your identity where you can recruit the appropriate players each year. Or sometimes that super big, fast, strong, smart kid is at a different position, and you have to be flexible enough to tailor it to him. So long-winded answer to your question.
You know, something that I think has been a storyline that we've kind of followed throughout this season, and it's something that I've talked quite a bit about on the air, off the air, is that to me, this year was the first true year of the Archer era of Cornell football. And the reason that I felt that way was that you came in year one with such an established quarterback and an established system, and you had to play to that. I feel, and I'm sure you probably would agree. This year you got to build your program and start to lay that out there. Did you have a sense of that? Did you feel like that in kind of the difference between year one and year two?
Oh, sure. You know, it was almost like year 1B. You know what I mean? Right. It was like year one again, because Jeff was such a dominant player that it was literally, we're going to call it the place he's comfortable with. And, you know, I'll never forget, he called me, I forget which game it was, but he called me a Tuesday before one of the games, and he's like, do we really even need to have to run the ball? Like, can we just throw it? And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, Jeff, you know, like, when you're going to move on to the next level, like, you're going to have to, you know, hand that thing off every once in a while. So, no, you know, in many ways, it was like 2 first years. Yeah.
And having to be able to adjust without Jeff Matthews, at times during the year, the running game struggled because of protection-wise. How do you see yourself trying to fix that problem?
Well, that's a great question. And I think it just comes down to when you have that second year of a system. So everything in my first year was tailored to Jeff. And then this year it was kind of, with a new offensive coordinator, it was kind of the first year of that offense. And so I think, you know, really Christian is trying to blend that together where guys are comfortable with what we're doing in the run game, and then if that gets stunted, to make sure we understand the right protection where there's not going to be a free blitzer running, to be able to pick that up and convert on third down.
And how will the new recruits, the new offensive line recruits that are coming, how will they play a role in that?
You know, I think the biggest thing, you know, at the offensive line position, which I'm biased, right? You know? Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree. You know what I mean? Based about my history, I'm real biased. You know, the biggest thing is to have you know, depth and quality depth, because those big guys take a while to develop. You know, so like for example, I'll use myself. I came to Cornell. I was 238 pounds when I showed up as a freshman. I played my senior year at 285 pounds. I refuse to tell you what I weigh today. but I'll show you the growth I made between, you know, my freshman year, you know, to my senior year was huge. You know, very rarely are you going to find somebody on the line of scrimmage, especially on the offensive line, that's ready to play right away. But to be able to get that, you know, those guys in a program, you know, with our brand new weight room, thanks to our generous alumni, and to get them developed is critical. And to do that for consecutive years, so that when you have an injury, you're able to have, you know, somebody, a junior, you know, a sophomore if you have to, but a junior or senior, you know, step right in and not have to go to a freshman who's just physically out, you know, mismatched through no fault of their own, just physically not at that same level.
Yeah, you know, I think we saw the offensive line start to make some strides this year, and I'm curious, you know, your thoughts on. Obviously, Robert Somborn comes in. He does a great job. He starts to open up the passing game. He's getting pass protection.
No doubt.
And it's something that, you know, I've spoken to Luke Haiti a little bit about. But first of all, he's the first one to say that he's kind of he'll get better as the season goes on. And he's very open about that. But to me, it was interesting to see how, as Somborn really hit his stride, the running game opened.
Sure.
And I mean, obviously, that's clear. You open up the pass game, you're going to have more room for the running game. But did you see that, and how did you see kind of that mix between the strong passing game, allow the offensive line, and allow Luke and some of the other guys to really build the running game?
You know, it's that, like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So you're absolutely right. When you're able to threaten the defense in one area, it loosens the other area. And so, and that's what I love about football is you are so dependent upon your teammate to be able to do their job, and the other side of the ball to do their job, and the kicking in to do their job, that they really did start to complement each other. And I think that, you know, being able to build off of that, you know, into the off season and into spring ball is only going to be something that can really help us and propel our offense forward. So I don't have the exact stat, and I should have mentioned this during my long answer on the other side of the ball. I don't know if I could fit anything more in, but we also were near the tops of the league in time of possession in our offense, and that's something that I think is important because if you're going to blitz on defense, if you can hold the ball on offense, it gives your defense a chance to rest. And there were times that in some games, I think I had the defense probably blitzing a little bit too much and wore them out a little bit. That's important. And to be able to hold that ball, you need to be able to convert first downs, and to do that, you need to be balanced. You need to have both that run game and that pass game. And so I think when Robert kind of hitting his stride, and people knowing that he was a little bit more of a seasoned player back there throwing that thing around, I think that really helped him.
Transitioning a little bit from kind of this year's team and the on-field product. Talk about some of the personalities you have on this team. I mean, there's plenty of guys who we know from a media standpoint we've gotten to interact with, but talk about some of the guys that and kind of your interaction with them, the guys that make you love doing what you do every day.
I don't know if we have a long enough time slot to film the camera to talk about all of them. That's honestly what is so great about my job is the young men that we recruit and get to work with every day come from so many different backgrounds, each with a unique story. I like the two of you. You each have your own unique story that has brought you here today, and you're learning and growing, and then going to go do great things afterwards. So I couldn't single any one of them out because they're all important to me, and they all have such different personalities. And I tell that to guys in recruiting, the coolest thing is you're about to walk into a locker room with 100 guys. They're going to share your same values. And at your high school, you might be one of only a handful that think it's cool to excel academically and in the classroom and do the right thing socially and so forth. But here you're going to walk into this locker room, and these guys are going to be from all different parts of the country. But instantly, you're going to have a bond and a connection with them. So I'm really, really lucky and blessed, and I've learned so much from them.
So just flowing a little bit off that, your motto is that everyone can do something.
That's right.
So how do you empower that motto? How do you get people to really buy into that?
Well, I think that the everyone can do something is something that our CFA chairman, Marty Rauch, and myself kind of came up with to ignite our alumni base. To say that no matter where your steps have taken you from your time at Sholkoff Field, whenever that was, to where you are now, you have an ability to help this program, right? Whether it's with your time, okay, with talents, obviously. Every program relies upon the generous giving of their alumni, monetarily wise, but that is really what we're trying to speak to say, you are still a Cornell football player, you just got too old to play in the games, So we can still and really need, and your help and support is critical into building that program. And we talked about in the first part of the show, all the different people that this position of head football coach leads, that is such a critical one. And if you think about by sheer numbers and volumes of people, Cornell football players, and friends of Cornell football, parents of former players, all those folks that care, those guys that are, watching that ESPN ticker, for the Cornell score, every Saturday night, if you ignite them and awaken them and connect them back to this program, that the power and the things that they can do for our program is immeasurable. Whether it's mentoring our current players in our career program, right? You think about paying it forward. There's no better way to do it than that. Here we have 80 some right now, and then add the freshmen, 100 some kids, Cornell football players that are in 4 short years going to go on and going to need a career and contribute to our society. So to be able to mentor them and open up doors for them that way, that will pay itself forward to this program tenfold. Because when those players get into that position, they'll remember that somebody helped them, and they're going to pay it forward back. And that is what being a Cornell football alumni is really about. And then being at events. We have people that are hosting events for us. We have one next week in Washington D.C., out in Chicago and New York City this spring. Calling up a former teammate, saying, hey man, you know what, I know I'm a senior on Cornell football, but you know, that was a great and impactful part of our life. Let's go to this event. Let's hear what they're doing with the program now, how we can help, because you can do something. You know, coming back to our golf outing, getting a crew together. What more fun way, you know, to support a program than come back and play golf with your buddies. So, you know, Christian, that really speaks to, you know, the fact that it's not somebody else's program, it's our program, and you do have that power. Each of us have that power to contribute in some way.
You bring so much energy and enthusiasm to this position, and I think it's something that, you know, you're talking about the alumni and energizing them. You clearly do a great job of energizing your team, your players, and your coaches. How do you get so excited? What gets you going every day? I mean, really, I think that's been the exciting story of watching you on the sidelines, watching you get ready for games. I still remember your first game as head coach. You sprinted out in the tunnel, and I mean, what a great thing, and it's something that I think fans, whether it's the student body, whether it's the local community, and whether it's the alumni base, people can get behind that.
Right.
And what gets you going? You know, how do you live life that way? Because it's incredible to see.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, large Dunkin' Donuts coffee. You know, it's from the time I came here, I looked at this as a chance to do something special. And the number of times in your life when that opportunity arises, you might live your whole life and never have something where you could say you were the first one to do something. And of course, we're talking about winning an Ivy League football championship. But then on top of that, you know, through my time with Teach for America in Newark, I just see this program and this great game as a tremendous vehicle, especially with the Cornell degree, a tremendous vehicle to positively impact folks who then, when they go on from here, who knows the ripple effect they might have, and they might say, you know what, I learned this quality about my job, whether they're a doctor or a real estate, I learned that at Showcroft, right? And so I just look at that as a tremendous duty or opportunity that I have to shape and to lead, and to get to do it with the greatest game ever played. You know, that vision is what keeps you going or keeps you energized. You know, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. And you know, I think one thing that's also been, you know, exciting to watch, you know, again, we see it from a different angle than you do, and we get to see it from a little bit of a different angle than the casual observer does. But you know, it's interesting to watch you at media days. I've been to my handful of them, and you know, even if it might have been a rough game, it might have been a rough prior week, you always have the same, you know, even keel approach. And you know, I guess what goes into that, and how do you, you know, day in, day out, you know, continue to keep that kind of mentality with this team of, hey, we're making a step forward every single day.
Sure.
Even if it's, and we might have lost yesterday, but we took positive steps towards achieving this plan that you've talked about already.
Sure. You know, I think I got a great support system, right? So I have great parents, my mom and dad, you know, that I talk to regularly, and they always don't get the positive, you know, version of me. You know what I mean? They're unbelievably supportive. Great alumni. Already mentioned Marty Rauch, Doug Pratt, Buck Briggs, guys that just have, you know, my back no matter what, and have bought into that vision. And if you don't take your eye off that prize, you know, then you always you know the end result, right? So I know how this story is going to end for Cornell. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be like nothing this place has ever seen. It's going to be unbelievable. And like I've told our former players that unfortunately have graduated, you were just as much part of carrying that torch for us as anybody. So I know that's what it's going to be. So this, whatever happened today, that's a setback, and that didn't feel good. And trust me, the losses kill me. You know what I mean? They do. But I know how it's going to end. I know what it's going to be, and I know everybody, no matter what their role was involved with it, is going to be a part of it. You're going to be so proud of it when it's finally there. So I think that's something that, you know, is easier said than done. And I certainly, like all of us, you know, have moments where, you know, you get upset or you get frustrated or you get negative, but then you look back to the end result, and you just keep going. And it helps to have unbelievable kids to work with. So.
who are your mentors, whether it's as a coach or as a player? You've mentioned, some alumni already who have, who have helped you and who have guided you through this process, but, who are some of your mentors who you really look up to and who have helped make you who you are?
Sure. I think number one's my dad. He was a basketball coach at the Division III level at Binghamton University when they were Division III. He was then mayor of our town. So he definitely has always had that kind of service mentality, but also courageous enough to step into a public leadership role where it's not always fun and it's not always, you have to be able to take that. So for sure him, and then there's so many others. I mentioned some of them already, but if you have a perspective of that you can learn from each person, it's amazing the things people will tell you and the unbelievable insights you can gain on how you might be able to do something better, or the perspective that they're coming with, or the things in their life that they've overcome. So I try to just kind of be mindful of that and say, it's great to be able to interact with this person in this situation. What is something I might be able to take from them, because everybody has unique talents and traits.
And how do those interactions with those people help you continue to build this program and sort of balance this team out so it will process or go in the right direction?
Well, that's great. You have to be mindful of that, right? Like you have to say, okay, what can I, take from this situation? Kind of like put them on the chessboard, right? Like how do I put this person on the chessboard and use them, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but use them to help win a football and help get to that end result we want. So you have to be able to translate that, and then you have to act on it and make the changes that you see necessary.
Got just a few minutes left, and kind of one final question for you. What should we expect from this team next year?
I'm never big on the predictions.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be a number. It's
So-
just, what should we be looking for, and what's the next step? in the
Yeah, I
process?
think we'll find out a lot more this spring. This spring we need to get answered, what we can do defensively. This spring needs to answer, our quarterback competition. This spring we need to answer what kind of balance and what going to be our go-to plays offensively. This spring our special teams need to step up. We need to solidify those, ensure those up. So I think that those are the things we're going to focus on for spring practice. And then as we move into the summer, conditioning phase, obviously it's all voluntary on their own, but should just continue to make the strides in the growth physically, literally just bigger, faster, and stronger physically that we're going to need for training camp.
Thank you, Coach. It's been great getting to speak with you. We really appreciate the time.
Thanks, Coach.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come talk Big Red football.
Absolutely. So for Christian Rauch and Alex Gimenez, thanks to head coach David Archer for joining us. And that was our interview with the head coach here on Big Red Sports Network.